Debbie DeFrancesco. Welcome to the Pour Me a Story podcast. I am with Malik Williams. This is actually take two because we had some technical difficulties. So we were getting to the point where I'm like jumping out of my skin because I'm so happy to see you. Malik and I go way back. We've reconnected recently, and it's only been like giddiness and fun. And like, I'm like, seriously, I'm like, I swear I didn't do any drugs. I'm just so excited that you're here. And we'll get into who Malik is, how awesome he is, what he's doing, and also, you know, let's like toast, right? So
absolutely.
I asked Malik, what do you want to drink? And he said, Uncle Nearest. So how many, okay, this is whiskey talk. How many, I hate this term. How many fingers? I know what I just said.
I should have thought about this when I got here.
We're like, is there anything you don't want to talk about? He's like, maybe this. And then this is my Negroni. It's pre-mixed. It is equal parts Campari, gin, and vermouth, but it has to be good vermouth. Mine's bigger. Only because mine's not straight. All right. Nice.
Interestingly, mine's bigger, and how many fingers were also possible titles for this podcast.
Oh, shit. No, he didn't. That is Dave. Yes, he is my podcast producer. And I love the zinger. But you know what? You don't get any drink. We're going to toast. Cheers. Thank you for playing. I'm so happy you're here. She good. Dave.
This would be officially my first time having a cocktail on a podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
See?
So,
I'm gonna go down a dirty route. It's a celebration. You know what? It's a celebration. I was really thinking about like my favorite things. Talking to people, getting to know people, socializing, and I love my cocktails. And specifically the Negroni, like it's even on my handle, like my you know, your signature on your email or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's like I love cake. I love Negronis and socializing and being with people. And those are all my favorite things. And so I'm like, how can I mold those into something? I'm not saying we have to get shit-faced, you know, that would defeat the purpose. But I think people...
But you don't control my life, so you don't...
If you want to get shit-faced, man, you can get fucking shit-faced. I am all for it. I will support it.
I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. I haven't seen you in forever.
I know.
So long.
I know. Should we tell the story how we met? So Malik and I were both in hospitality, and we were like each other's Saturday night dates, man. Like, I mean, platonic, we're both married, blah, yada, yada. But we would see each other like about every Saturday, just depending on, he worked for a particular vendor who did all the music for a lot of my events, and I was the event planner at a property, and we just got to know each other. And like, I would look forward to the times where I got to like see you and hang out with you and talk about the parties, and then talk about, you know, that job for you wasn't your job. Like, it was your job, but it was like, you are so many other things, and you're an Emmy-nominated composer. You're a huge influence in your community. You volunteer. Like, you make me like want to be a better person. Like, seriously, I'm not even joking. But so we met 1,000 years ago, and then we resurfaced. Was it LinkedIn? I don't know. Like, or I saw you in person.
No, I think it was LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
I think it was LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's been a while since then.
Yeah.
You know, since we met, but no, we talked about your creative world. We talked about scripts and reality TV shows, or things like that, right? So that's how we really connected.
Yep.
And so I try not to lose those folks.
Right? And you know what? The creative side, right? So natural born creators. But you're a natural born creator, but you're also like, you're a great businessman too. Like, I was drawn to you on LinkedIn again because you would always show up in my feed and it didn't annoy me. Like, do you know? No, but like, do you know? It's like, seriously.
Thank you. That's great to hear.
But you know how there's some people like on Facebook, you can be like, ugh, girl, I'm gonna hide you. Like, I found myself going through your pictures, not in like a weird stalkery way, but in a...
I'm flattered.
Yeah, I mean, if I want to stalk you, it's my business. But in a way where I was like interested in what you were doing. You were connecting with so many cool people. You were like living the dream, and it wasn't bullshit. It wasn't like, you know, Facebook, it can be curated, you know, but LinkedIn also is very businessy. You keep it professional, but you're smiling greatly in the pictures. Seriously, and everyone around you is too. And
thank you. Yeah.
And but like, so when I saw that on LinkedIn, I said, okay, I need to reconnect because this is silly. We had so much fun together, and we're both clearly doing way different things when we met 10 years, 12 years, 10, 12. What? It's 2025.
25, wow. So 12 years.
Oh my God, like 12 years.
12
oh my God,
years.
well, cheers to that.
Cheers.
Holy shit. I'm just trying to get you drunk. But so...
Like, all right, what else
How many
is
times?
exciting?
What else? Let's play a game of it.
I know. Do you remember when I did that thing?
Cheers. Yes. Do you do that? Oh, the thing. Okay. Also, I'm wearing these amazing shoes. We should play the game of, I have a few red bottom shoes, but I was telling you I was a heavier person when I first bought these, and these are like ridiculously like really, really thin, like beyond. These aren't even cigarette heels. They're like Virginia Slim heels, right? And like I don't know how I held my weight up because now I'm lighter and I still can't. I just can't walk. So
I'm a Prince freak, so I'll rock those.
Oh my God, right? These are like fit, I'm telling you, the rainbow. I mean, I'm all for, LGBTQ, etc. But like these also make me feel just awesome because I like color and rainbows. But we'll see how long. We can drink when I take them off. How long it's going to take me from sitting like a lady to sitting crisscross applesauce.
Exactly.
Because when we met, though, going back to that, truly, like I was always amazed because you talked a lot about your creativity, and we talked about the scripts. We also talked about. I didn't know you were a composer. Like music is, as you know, brings people together, and being creative, I feel like there's like, what is it? They not like us. Like there's a lot of people in my life who kind of just don't get it.
It's a thing.
Yeah,
it's definitely a thing, and I learned that. But that's also why I'm out there a lot.
You have to.
And what I want people to see is I want people to see me as a creative person, as a human, as a dad.
I love that.
Right. So my LinkedIn stays more professional than my Instagram. Right. But my son plays cello. He's in the cello program. Right. So I get to post that on LinkedIn because I'm also a parent rep for the organization. I'm on the board of the school. I
love that.
But it's also just it's our responsibility. Right.
Yeah.
It's like as a parent, like that's what we're supposed to be focusing on. We have to do all these other things in life to support our families and our children. But I like to show that because it's an awesome program, right? It's education.
Of course.
And my relationship with my son in particular.
How old is he?
He's 12.
Oh.
So I have a 19, a 12, and a 5.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oops.
And we have so much fun.
I was going to say, okay, so you and your wife still like each other. That is amazing.
Yeah, no, there's my daughter's from my ex-marriage.
Oh, see,
before.
Things I didn't know about Malik.
So, there's a lot that people don't really know about me because you look at my social media, you won't see that.
No,
you won't see that like, woe is me.
No,
this thing happened to me. Or
it's a waste of time.
But I am always open to talk to people about stuff.
I'm going to ask. I mean, you're going to have like 2 more fingers. I'm going to be like, tell me your darkest moment growing up. I wouldn't do that to you. I mean, not without some warning first. But no, but you said something too, it being about our kids and being a positive example, but also maintaining your sense of self. So I think it's really important, as I have a 14-year-old who's a freshman, I have a 9-year-old who's in 4th grade. They have their interests, I have my interests, that I'm still Molly's mom and Dylan's mom, but I'm also Debbie who loves to write and schmooze and podcast and hear your story. And I know I joke around, but I do want to hear some of your darker moments because I think we build on them to get where we're at. And like, I don't only want to be labeled as Molly's mom. You don't want to always be labeled as dad. That's part of who you are, 100%. And you want to give your kids everything. But part of that is showing the example of I can still love you and support you and do all these great things. But I'm also focused on me. I'm also going to sit in my studio. Sometimes when I want to be inspired, I just sit here. I saw your studio. It's impressive. I mean, not only just your equipment, but all your instruments and I mean, I saw it on Zoom. I didn't even, and that, but that's what I'm saying. Like, to me, it's just important that as parents, we level them out in a way where it's like, we're people too. Outside of being Molly's mom, I'm all these other things. You know what I mean? Like, and you're showing him that by being out there and, and that's super important and underestimated, I think, right now.
Well, I have a theory,
Oh, yeah.
And my theory is, so my daughter's 19. She's at Cal State Fullerton in a nursing program.
Holy
so
shit.
Super exciting and proud of her.
Wow, you should
But
be.
for the last 15 years, I traveled back and forth because she grew up in California and nobody knew that, right? So like I was always been
Secret
self-employed.
number one.
Secret number one, yeah. I've always been self-employed because I needed to make sure that I could kind of keep her emotionally sound. Oh. And I sent her there because her grandmother had cancer, and she ended up staying there, and there's a long story behind that, right? But the best thing that ever happened, in hindsight, because I was able to kind of figure out me more. Yeah. The other best thing is she was always with me, like in my studio when she was up, and she was 4.5 when she left. And so that nurturing part of me as a dad. So my theory over all of these years is like, if I can share who I am with my children, or with her in particular, because she knows how to use tools. We made, American Girl dolls. Yes. So those clothes are really expensive, right? Yeah. So it's only like you go and do that, at first. I'm like, okay, this is not going to work out. Yeah. But we would go to Joann Fabrics and go get material, and then we'd come back or like really nice women's purses that come, like a Louis or a Coach or whatever, comes in that nice little fur felt pouch. Yes. So I would, go on a scavenger hunt and go find that stuff in the basement or wherever it is and find the material. And then we'd use that and
that was the best looking American Girl doll ever, I bet.
Yeah. And so part of it was my skills as, I have 9 brothers and sisters, parents, God. My mother, we didn't have school clothes or whatever. Like my mother sewed everything. Same. So I'm the 7th child, so I have 4 sisters older than me. So I learned how to sew, I learned how to cook, I learned.
So were you bullied by your sisters?
Yes. It was boys against the girls. We're not going to go there. Hold on, let me.
I'm about to take off my shoes.
I just got triggered. No, so my theory behind that is just like, as a man raising a little girl in particular, like, guys, it's daddy's little girl, and that's still that way up until now. But I get to share with her everything that I knew. Yes. Which means that she's going to grow up and always have my interest. If you think about it, right?
That's interesting. Yes, that is very true.
There's nothing that she'll ever like to do that I won't want to do. And vice versa. So we'll always have that connection. And I just went there in January because she wanted to make a headboard in her dorm, in her apartment, I should say. So she's like, Dad, I need you. So we went to Home Depot, and the same thing. We went to, we got
Joann Fabrics and got all this.
Yeah, we went to Joann's. We went to the other little, craft shops and everything else, and I bought like a handsaw because I had to. Oh my God. And we made this awesome headboard, right? So like doing those kind of things is time. Yeah. It's my, ability as a creative crafts person.
That's
right?
Huge, though.
Construction. I went to Wentworth for architecture and mechanical engineering, right? So like I grew up building. I grew up doing.
You're an engineer. You engineer stuff. Like that's amazing, and also
so it's fun.
But it's funny. I never thought about it like that, because it's funny. So like the other side, you see like my gym, my whatever. I was a gymnast growing up. I'm broken because of it. That's a whole other podcast, or a couple more drinks. But truly, like, my daughter is an artist, so she is not on any teams and she doesn't play sports. But having a happy, healthy body is very important to me, and I've bestowed that to her. So she comes in here and goes on the treadmill and picks up my weights, and I come in and kind of like correct her for him just to make sure she's not going to hurt herself. But that is something, it's funny, that is my interest. She sees me do that 4 or 5 times a week, or knows that I do. And she's like, can you talk to me about this? Can you show me this? And that's something like we don't do together yet because she's too embarrassed, and she 14. Oi. Tell me, I'll get through it, but it's fine. But that's interesting. And then it's Dylan, actually my 9-year-old. So he comes in every now and again towards the tail end of my workouts, and I have a couple of 5-pound weights over there. And again, not that he's not strong, but his muscles aren't developed yet. But it's important to me that they have healthy bodies, healthy lifestyles, but also know that it's really important to me just in general, just in a way that we can bond. And I love that you did that with your daughter. And now she's like, hey, I don't want this headboard. Why would I have this? At 19, I was not thinking about my headboard.
Well, she's done this forever.
I was thinking about different ways in my headboard. I was thinking notches in my head.
Cheers.
I was like, wait, I was thinking about my head, holding on to. No, I'm kidding. I'm actually not kidding. Sorry, Dave. Remember when I used to say that?
I know. So the other part of that is as children grow into themselves, right? So my daughter going back and forth, what it was is every time she had 4 days off, legally, she had to be in Boston.
Holy shit.
So somebody had to fly her back since 5 up until she wasn't flying her own until like 12 or whatever. So for folks,
is this your ex? Is this your ex-wife? Okay.
Ex-wife. So and again, I never thought about that aspect of it. No. It was me and my daughter, and that's it. When I
did you and your wife, ex-wife, end well?
No.
Okay.
No.
Fair.
No.
And is your relationship better now that she's old? I mean, you're not. She's obviously on the other coast.
Yeah, my daughter's older, and honestly, after like first year or two, I discovered I needed to figure out myself. I was on a plane one day when they say put the mask over your face before the child. And I was like, oh my God, I heard that. And I was like, that's what they mean. Because any dad that cares about their kids, there's no way you're going to look at yourself and put yourself before your child. Oh. Like, forget about it. It's never going to happen.
Never going to happen.
We don't buy things for ourselves. We don't eat before anyone else. We don't do any of that, right?
I drink and eat before people though. Sometimes I'm not proud of it.
But so I heard that and I was like, oh, okay. And again, this doesn't happen overnight, right? I did a lot of work and everything else. Yeah. But in my mind, I said, well, there's a lot of guys that travel around that live in the same house with their children that don't have relationships with their kids.
Fair enough.
Right? And so I was like, something, daddy's on a business trip. And that's what it was in my mind.
I love that.
And also when it comes to faith, like I was coming home and I was just praying all day long and everything else. And one day I was like, if I'm asking God to take care of me, he's got to be taking care of my kid, right?
Kid. Yeah.
So I really need to kind of live a little bit more in faith. And like, that's like a true test of like faith to say, all right, I'm not going to think about this child that much because I can't. I'm 3,000 miles away.
I can't do anything right now or from here.
Yeah. And so it was always about her. And so because of that, anything that she wanted and that she wanted to do, like we have an idea book. We can do a whole other segment on this.
Oh my God.
But I have an idea book from all of these years, up until like the last 4 years or so.
Oh, yeah.
Because as she got older. But whenever she had any ideas, we would talk on the phone. I talked to her every day. My other claim to fame is I think I missed, up until she was about 13, I missed 10 days of not talking to her.
Oh my God.
So every day, regardless, even if I just said hi or whatever. And this is
before text and like,
before she had her own phone and all that stuff. Which mean I had to call. And it was so painful to call.
Because then you had to talk to your ex and be like, hey, how are you? Good. Pleasantry, put my daughter on.
Exactly, yeah. So I went through that whole thing. And again, I had to always make it about her. And part of legally her leaving and going over there, because I don't regret sending her. Because
was it her grandmother on your ex-wife's side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. And so my daughter was like 4, cancer. I was like, something, if she has her grandbaby for however long she gets to have her grandbaby, thankfully she's still doing good today.
Oh,
right?
wow.
So I'll say that.
That's great.
That's a blessing.
Yeah, huge.
But, fast forwarding, she always looks out for me. She always sends me food. She always fed me when I went over there. So there was a lot of silver linings around the cloud, right? But I've always been very open about just the kind of like my human responsibility, right? And eliminating the drama. Some people don't know how to do that. So I got really good at saying, hey, something, I'm really sorry you feel that.
Yes.
You feel
but
that.
I don't give a fuck. But like, you do, but you don't.
No,
I'm not going to dwell on it.
No.
You know what I mean? But it's so fun. I feel like as we get older too, like with age comes that experience. And you shed some of the toxic people, situations, what's not serving you. And it's not about taking, it's about what's filling my cup, and it's healthy,
and only we can do that.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
Only we can make the choice to do that. So I did that. I didn't, I was isolated. I lost like 30 pounds. So everything else, but when I lost 30 pounds, all of a sudden I went from like a 46 jacket to a 42. And I was at Macy's one day. I was like, oh shoot, look at this. What? I never thought I'd fit into a 42.
Oh my God.
So all
my
these
favorite store ever, by the way.
Exciting things happened during that, and it kind of taught me how to like think and use my brain. Like any business book you read, it always talks about your brain and everything. How do you control your mind? Yes. And I just became very mindful of that. And so
I think that's what drew me to you. Like, we goofed off, but then we'd have these conversations, right?
Yeah.
And part of it was sometimes about our clients, and sometimes they were wonderful. Sometimes you're like, oh my God, this kid is 13 years old. We're doing this bar bat mitzvah. They don't even give a shit. They don't even want it. This is the parents' party. And like the mindfulness and hoping, like, I don't know. I think that it's so important to go within. And when I was first introduced to you, and when we first, like, we would hang out. Like I said, I started to look forward to the times like where we'd like get to spend time and, you know, goof off and whatever the hell we were doing. Mm-hmm. And then it's like you watch the metamorphosis too. Yeah. So and like I said, when I started to see all of the cool stuff you were doing, and like I said, on LinkedIn, where I wasn't just being like, next, like I try not to doom scroll, and LinkedIn's different, right? Like you said, that's the business side. And I get that. And some people blur that a little bit. I always look for those though. They make me laugh. Like the people who are like, wrong tool. Cheers. Please don't get a DUI on the way home. Okay. No. But seriously, it's like when I started to see that, then I was curious. And then, so tell me what it was. What were you working on that you were Emmy nominated? Like that is like some of the coolest shit I've ever, as somebody who does not, I love music and I love being creative, but I quit piano. I can't read music and I got really frustrated. The thing, the cheat sheet you'd have on your piano.
Yeah.
That told you, like, when you're first starting, I had it on for 2 years. And finally my mom's like, all right, she's not going to learn this.
She's not taking the stickers off.
This is not working, Lynn. Okay. So like what, I mean, just tell me the story.
So fast forwarding, like even when you knew me, when we met back then, I was still doing music for like film, TV, and advertising.
And then I do want to know how you got into it. Like, so just.
Yeah. So like, fast forwarding, singer, songwriter, played in bands. I toured. I was production manager for Jordan Knight from New Kids on the Block.
Yes, I knew that. Yes.
I think you know Bobby Brown is my cousin.
Bobby Brown is your cousin. You told me that.
I spent time in Atlanta with those guys.
How was that? Is that more shit we can't talk about?
This episode. How many episodes? How many episodes?
You know, I think you're officially my co-host.
I've learned so much about what not to do with my life. Thankfully, Bobby's doing good now.
Yes,
like he's in a great space and everything else.
I did see you posted about him recently, like the flashback
he's
stuff.
always like fun and everything else.
Oh my God. And has he come full circle? Like as far as like he knows what not to do, like ish. I mean,
none of us really know what not to do.
I still do it.
No, you know what it is? It goes back to the family thing.
Yeah,
right. And I used to say for years, even in the crazy times, Bobby would come to my house. Even things that people probably don't remember. Sometimes I'm like, yo, cousin, remember we did that? I'm like, no, you don't.
Oh, you do. You weren't really there.
Yeah, you
Crack
weren't
is
there.
whack.
But like, you know, his kids would come by or whatever. And again, we might be in the studio or something like that.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Not, you know, it was really just more of the hangout thing. Yeah. But when it came to family, even to now, like I admire him because of just his love and concern for family. Okay. So that's something, you know, you kind of see through. Everybody has drama. Yeah. Everybody has stuff that goes on. But I learned like from back then, it was like, you know, Key Sweat and Babyface and Criss Cross and TLC, like all of these groups that we're around like all the time.
I'm like, Criss Cross will make it.
Yeah. I came back from that time to go on tour with Jordan. So I kind of, you know.
Was it, okay. Are you allowed to say, I don't know, like good person?
Jordan's cool.
Yeah.
I have an issue, and I'm very honest.
Yeah, I know. This is why.
My issue is Hollywood is Hollywood, right? Yes. And so as we mature, and you know, when you're on the road, everyone's a star, of right? Course. But also everyone's expendable.
Oh, that's a very fair point.
Be mindful. So before I left on tour, I was like, yeah, dude, I'll go, but I need to make sure that I'm in every green room. Yeah. I'm bringing my gear.
Good for you.
I was a production manager. So those were my demands before I left.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we were there with like Jam and Lewis. It was so many people. Shaggy was like really, these are people I really like to be around. There's other people that I didn't like.
Oh my God, Shaggy, yes.
I was just thinking, when I was looking at your wallpaper in the bathroom, the butt wallpaper.
My butt wallpaper in the bathroom.
But I was just thinking of like Elton John and things that I learned from like Rod Stewart.
I love Rod Stewart.
Even in Boston because we tour around and Earth, Wind, and Fire. Like
Yes.
these icons.
My husband will start singing Earth, Wind, and Fire right this second if we invited him down.
And
Yeah.
like the really cool people that were like icons, where I'm like, you don't have to be a jerk.
No.
You know, you don't have to be.
No, that's huge. I love that you knew that. But I also love that you had your demands set too. Like you said, we're all replaceable. You know, being in hospitality, if I didn't want to do my job at that hotel, they were going to find someone younger and cheaper, 100%, and who would give 80 hours. And like same as you know that on tour, if you need to have your needs met, you like not only being in the green room, but I'm going to be here for 6 months. I'm going to be paid for these 6 months. And I think that is something that's so important that people don't do often. I mean, for me as a woman, it's harder. I remember I was working at a fancy hotel. We'll just leave it at that. And the whole team quit, and I was left with another very talented planner, but we were weeded. We were working 80 hours. We were making shit money. We weren't being valued. And I told my colleague, I said, I'm going to ask for more money right now, or else I'm leaving. And she's like, I can't lose this job. I can't lose this job. I'm like, they're not going to lose us, or else they have nobody. And I wasn't trying to be an asshole. I was just like, I know I'm worth more. And we walked in that day and we got a bonus, and it wasn't a lot. I think it was like $2,000 or something. But at the time it was like, okay, they heard us. It was in our next paycheck. And it's really hard to demand to like go on record and demand what you're worth. Right. And also, I'm amazed that you like learned from the people around you. Okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I don't want to do. Oh, I'm gonna be like him. Nope, definitely not gonna be like him.
Yeah.
Like,
well, again, easier said than done.
true,
right?
because you get sucked into it, right? It's a vibe, right? Like this, the industry. I mean, the music industry and hospitality are kind of redheaded stepsisters, right? Like so for me, we're known for drinking and doing drugs. I never did drugs, mostly because I thought I would do like a line of coke and like die the first time, and then I thought my Jewish mother would be like, oh my god, how would I not know she had a drug problem? Like literally that's where my mind went. I mean, so I was afraid, which is good. I had a healthy fear, but I did like my alcohol, but I like to be around the vibe. And I think it's really, you can kind of get sucked into that vortex. And I'm so amazed that you're so grounded and level after having the experiences that you had, because you could have easily gotten sucked into that vortex.
Oh yeah,
what prevented
No, I
that?
think I'm lucky. Like I used to leave Atlanta back, like at Bobby's house, right? I used to drive
I'm surprised
down
you
there.
survived that.
I drive down, go stay for like 3 weeks a month, right? Literally.
Shit.
And so
Was
you
this
get
before
there.
kids?
Yeah.
Remember you had a daughter
that I knew of. But yeah, so this is before that. But at that time, you're kind of hustling. It's a music business, right? So you want to be a star. You want to try to figure out. And I was into production, so even though I was an artist per se and a songwriter, it
You're
was
also
still
an engineer.
an engineer, and a producer. So you really want to go there and write songs for everybody you can, right? And so that was kind of a thing. But what comes along with that? Again, I could see it in my head, like sitting across the mixing board from Bobby, or and them just kind of being out every night. Or his house, it was like 11 bathrooms, I think.
Oh fuck!
But what comes along with that?
But I had better wallpaper.
Everyone that comes, all the groupies, and all the friends that
Were there real friends in there?
No, I mean, these are people, they would come, it was literally, we used to joke about it because like from New York all the way down, right?
Wow.
All of these folks, you meet somebody like, oh, I just came here from Jersey or Virginia.
Okay, and then I have a question. Sorry to interrupt you, but I gotta know. When you're a groupie, how does it work where you get invited to the house? Like, is it like almost famous the movie? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, how do you get to that point where like there's a concert, there's a show, there's a something to we're going to Bobby's house? Like, I seriously like
this is like Diddy. This is like a Diddy story. Okay, so
I'm taking off my fucking shoes. Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, there they go. Hold on, I gotta adjust. I might flash.
I will tell you right now, like everything you hear about this Diddy stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
1,000% true. And it's not like Bobby was a billionaire.
No.
Right? With that type of access for that many years. And it's really scary when you think about it because, how did I avoid these things?
Yes.
Sometimes I would get so frustrated because I needed to work. Because at the end of the day, I'm not the star.
No, and
So
they're
I'm there to
showing
make
up and they're
money.
fucked up still or drunk from the night
I'm not
before.
getting anything done.
Yeah.
And I was there with like MCA Records, who honestly was paying us to be there. So I wasn't just going. So it was just
Oh
like,
shit! So you had a job to do.
Yeah, I had a job to
Yeah.
do. So it's like, hey, you're gonna go to Atlanta, and oh, by the way, you're gonna stay at Bobby Brown's house. So
And
I
you're
called
gonna
my
babysit.
uncle and like, hey, let somebody know I'm coming, because everybody else that's there, all the other external friends, and it became like a game. Like, okay, you have to get up in time. Whoever gets up in time gets the 500 SL, or gets the Nissan 300 back in the day. And if you got the minivan, that means
Shit, you won.
Completely. Everyone has the code to the gate and all that stuff. So it becomes like a daily thing, or everything that you see. The problem is not everybody is actually earning a living, right? There's a lot of people just hanging on. I was never that person. I worked since I was 10 years old. So
Understood.
like I did whatever I needed to do. I didn't have school clothes. I had 9 brothers and sisters, right? So like I had to do whatever I needed to do. And I did like every job you can think of. You can name a job.
I'm like, hold on, let me get.
Did it.
I gotta. Okay.
Yeah.
I got some in my head for the next one. Okay. I'm gonna spring them on you in your next drink.
Yeah. Yeah. So like coming from that, again, it's just like, this is why I feel like I'm blessed. When people say they're blessed, I'm like, something, I was protected, right, on that level, because, women grow on trees, right? That's always going to be an issue. Strippers, right? That's a daily thing. Like Bobby would lock girls up in his room for like 4 or 5 days. And it was a joke, like going through the hotel, like you walk in a hotel, you see somebody's tray outside the door. So it's literally like that sometimes. And he had the Scarface cameras in there and everything else to see what's going on. But that was a daily thing, right? Wow. And so
like at his house, and where was Whitney in all this?
Oh, Whitney, he was just dating Whitney at the time. Okay. So so Whitney was around.
She ever get tested? Did he? Like, here's like where the mom and like disease were.
No, it wasn't like that. Honestly, like there's a lot of real stuff. Like, because again, I was a cousin. Like his sister used to look out for me. Nice. Honestly.
How is she older?
She is older. She's older.
Okay. Because I'm like, that feels like big sister vibe, right? Like.
Yeah, but it was mostly like, finding out that I'm a real cousin, right? And saying, hey, he's coming or whatever, and just kind of looking out on that level, but not like a daily basis. It wasn't like that. We weren't kind of hanging and chilling on it. But I was just there on a mission, because again, I want to work. I want to climb the ladder. And then when things weren't working out, or people were just wasting too much time, I got in my car. I remember one night, it was like 2 or 3 in the morning. Yeah. And I was like, screw this, I'm going back home. And I drove back to Boston. Shit. And I was done. And I think that was when he was getting married, around the time he was getting married. And so somebody called me like, hey, you going to the wedding? And I was like, no. Like I just drove back from Atlanta. I'm not going to the wedding.
Well, you were pushed to your breaking point, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so I've always been that way. Yeah. Like, so just like we're joking around. Yeah. I'm like 99.9% clown all the time.
Understood.
I love to joke around. I love to have fun. So, and people growing up know me that way. Yeah. And a lot of trauma, growing up in a big household, a lot of dysfunction and everything else. Yeah. I've always had these coping mechanisms. And so I think about that now at my age, like how I am.
What's your age?
58.
No fucking way.
Yeah, I'm old.
Even Dave just said, wow, I heard that, Dave.
It's the haircut, bro. It's the haircut, man.
I can't believe he's older than, barely older than.
I can. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I was trying to slam Dave, but it was
this is why, like, the history is there, and I look at things now, and you say, like, what do you think about this artist or that person from Boston? And I look at it now and say, something, you could do so much more, right? And you don't. And the things
that's why you're a mentor.
I'm not I mean, this is why I do what I do, but part of it is just my kind of like my calling, not to be.
I love it. I get
cliche about it, but it's almost like, what do I feel good about? Yeah. Do I feel good about doing something for you, or jumping on a Zoom and
remember
all the crazy stuff that we talk. Yeah, I mean, honestly, do I feel good if I met Dave today, and if he called me and said, hey, man, you do this music thing, my niece is interested or whatever.
Can you talk to her?
Yeah, absolutely. Matter of fact, just give her my number, tell her to come. And I do this all the time.
And I know you do. I know you do.
This is what you see on LinkedIn. Yeah. Because if I'm on a panel, I was just at Berkeley, college.
Amazing. College of Music. I love it in Boston, peeps.
And so I tell people all the time, because here I am on stage, right, with other people that are knowledgeable and have these experiences, but that young person sometimes is like, oh, they're never going to talk to me, or can I have that conversation. Now we have social
Do
media.
you seek
platforms.
them out ever? Like, you know,
Yeah.
like, do you know what I mean? It's the timid person in the room who probably has so much to offer. Because it's so funny that you said that. You're like, they're never going to have the balls to talk to me. They're never going to come up to me. Mm-hmm. And it's so fascinating because it's like, actually, those are probably the people you want to talk to, who offer a young, fresh perspective. And I think as people of a certain age, there's definitely young people stuff that annoy me, but there's so much greatness that comes from a different generation.
I meet like all the best people on the
Right.
planet.
Yes.
I say this all the time.
No, I know
it's
you do.
It's almost like a universal thing. It's
I
like,
love it.
How did I just
well,
meet
you
that
draw
person?
no, but you, Malik.
Well, I believe
You
that's
draw
what
it in.
I
You're the
try
fucking
to.
light in the room. But but that's part of it. You meet the best people because you give off this energy. And I'm not just like, you know, it's not just like, oh, you're amazing. But it's like, no, you are. But that's why I'm having you on this fucking show, because it's like, no, but
Oh, is that the reason? Oh, now it's starting to make sense.
And also,
No, honestly,
we're
like,
gonna
I
get
actually-
drunk. I'm kidding.
No, I honestly know what I'm able and capable of doing, and what I've done for the last 40 plus years now, right? Since I was my 6th grade teacher, Karen Kane, you know, Miss Kane, so she's Karen now, and she's on my Facebook, right? And
Shut up.
You know, she's on my Facebook, and she sees me doing things, and she's like, you know, you're
knew.
the same kid you were when you were in school. I'm like, who was I?
Bitch, I was scrappy.
But I do remember, like, you know, staying after school and washing the whiteboards. I mean, the blackboards back then.
Oh my
right?
God, yes.
All that stuff,
Oh,
right?
like-
And she would give us a couple $, or then after we graduated, invite us to go out to the movies. So we had those
she
kind
was
of
one of those
relationships.
teachers.
My high school principal now, every Thanksgiving when they have the football games, we're on a group text, and now
No.
sometimes a group FaceTime, right? Where we're passing the phone around.
I'm like legit dumbfounded.
Yeah. No, this is my high school principal, and he used to say, you know, if kids these
Where'd
days.
you go to high school?
I went to Boston Tech.
Okay.
Which also wasn't Dorchester High. So
I was
living
gonna
in
say that's
Dorchester.
okay, Dorchester.
So I learned a lot of stuff. Like I had
shit.
a lot of friends that weren't from my neighborhood. So we really went out of our ways to kind of like stay in touch.
That's amazing.
And
I
so,
love that.
like, there was, you know, friends from Chinatown. I grew up in Dorchester back in the day, where I didn't have any Chinese friends in Dorchester, and plus it was just black or white, right? And that was it. And a lot of violence, a lot of racism.
Unfortunate.
So only thing I knew about Chinese kids was Bruce Lee, and all of a sudden I go to school and I have all these, now I have all these Chinese nieces and nephews everywhere, right?
Right, but like amazing. It's you don't want to live in a fucking bubble, whatever the bubble might
That's
be.
the problem with Boston, to be honest with you. And again, on the outside looking in, what I'm able to do now, like I'm on the governor's council and all these other things that I've kind of worked towards doing. It's not an accident, because I showed up. When COVID opened back up, I was on every Zoom. You know, when governor's running for, you know, election, I didn't know who she was, and I was on a Zoom with her, and I didn't really like her, and I wanted to tell her that, because I also, and that's how I became, and it wasn't like this big thing. It was really just me kind of having a perception. I was a delegate, so I left that part out. But I literally, somebody was like, oh, you should go on this Zoom. And they were like, hear ye. I'm like,
You're like, oh,
I'm like, where's my wig? Like, where's my white wig?
We're in the curly Q thingies.
And so I just kind of literally, when I was there, kind of signed up, and they voted, and all of a sudden I became a delegate. Then I became a public figure. And this is in 2021, I think. And so, you know, all the candidates were on there, and she was in her car, and I was like, oh, who is this lady or whatever? And I kind of knew it was AG. And we had this conversation, you know, whether or not, you know, she definitely knows me now.
I'm sure
But
she remembers you
I
now.
went through other friends that were telling me about her, and all of her campaign people were calling me, and I'm like, you know, can you tell her to call me? And they're like, go to the website. I'm like,
No, I'm not going
you
to
have
the
any idea who you're talking to
like,
right now?
no, I'm not going to the website.
No, that's pedestrian. I don't go to websites.
No.
Tell her, somebody call me.
Pedestrian bullshit.
But through friends in the city of Boston,
Yeah.
arts and culture, you know, got a message over to her. She ended up calling me. We had a great conversation. You know,
How'd
and
she
again,
take
I felt
criticism?
amazing. And because my criticism was that, hey, I wanted a second opportunity for this first impression, right? All I saw was some white lady on there selling me something, right, on this Zoom. And I was like, I don't know if it's my internet connection or whatever, but you just didn't resonate with me, which is the word that I use. You didn't resonate. And what I meant by that is, as a black person from community, right, Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan, where I grew up, I'm not going to waste my time telling a white person how I feel about them, right? When it comes to politics in particular, right? But politicians,
Politics is tricky.
a gay woman, like all these reasons why somebody in the community might not like you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so because I'm that person from community, I get to say it out loud, and I get to say, hey, you know something? Because I knew you as AG, because I respected you as AG, right?
Make me believe you now.
Well, as Attorney General, she had a good reputation, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't really about that, except for me taking that opportunity to share my perception. Because if I'm going to support you, I want you to know, like, you know, this is going to be a thing in community. Yeah. People are going to look at you and say, like, well, who's this?
I'm not alone in how I feel.
Yeah. You know, who's the gay woman that plays basketball? That's all they're going to see, and it's very derogatory.
Yep.
So I want to be able to go there and say, oh, my God, you don't know Maura Healey?
Yep.
She's amazing.
She's amazing.
Right? And so that's what I want to do, but I can't do that until I spend some time with you and figure out if you're amazing.
Damn.
And I think we talked for like 45 minutes on that day on the phone, and I got off that phone pumped because she was amazing. And I see her now, and we smile, and she gives me a big hug, and it's amazing.
Well, you probably changed something on a core level with her.
Like, I hope that I just shared my experience, my honest experience. Because
your honest experience, but
I'm trying not to make it all about me. You see that? You see how I was doing that just now?
Oh, honey.
No, well,
make it about you.
I do hope when I walk in the room, people see, you know, and it's kind of a joke. I'm the safe black guy in Boston, right? And I'm kind of an angry, bald-headed black guy.
I've never seen you as an angry, bald-headed black guy.
I can't even stop laughing right now.
Oh my God, wait. What do we have to do to get, I'm like looking in his glass being like, can you get angry? Can I hit you? No, I'm totally kidding. I would never do that.
I grew up in a very, very violent environment, right? All we did was fight, you know? And I was telling my friend yesterday, like, I was like, you know, I wanted to kill this person and I had to stay away because I probably would have done it.
With your bare hands, or did you have a weapon?
Whatever.
Fucking A.
Whatever, yeah.
When you were wait, hold on, rewind. Was this your household, or was this like just people?
No. These are like, actually, no, there was people that I knew, And I'm like, you know something? I'm so glad that I didn't do that, because growing up angry, growing up violent, having to fight all the time and everything we did when it's
exhausting.
Yeah, but it's almost like you had to kind of like stick up for yourself. Mm-hmm. Now, as I got older, I mean, this is from like teen years, right?
Fair.
Going into like early 20s and everything else. And the violence and the racism that we grew up in, like my experience of dealing with that, like my father used to have to stay up overnight in Dorchester because they used to break our windows all the time. So he stayed up in his car with his gun to protect the house at night until he passed away in 2014, and he still had that nocturnal relationship. So I had that. So dig this one. You want to talk about? This is the funny one.
Give me a funny one.
This is a funny one.
All my shit.
So you'll know a little bit what I'm made of, right?
Yes.
So when I was like 6 or 7 years old, this kid, Brian Dumpy, I'll never forget it. He was throwing chicken and watermelon at me.
What the
How strategically racist do you have to be?
Dude, it's Brian Dumpy, you're fucking stupid. Be more clever.
And that's why I have to say his whole name, because you know something like...
Okay, you know Dumpy. We all have a Dumpy in our life.
He ended up being a jerk anyways, like, you know, after you learn these lessons.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was still on the street. But I was probably like 6 years old. I would go home crying to my mother. My mother didn't play, right? My mother called my father on his CB radio in the car, if you guys remember those days.
Yes.
My father calls the police to meet us at Brian's house. So we waited for the police to show up, called the family outside. My father looked at the cops and said, if this family bothers mine one more time, I'm killing everybody in the whole house.
Oh, my.
So if you can imagine how powerful that was, and I didn't think of this.
Was it a black or white cop?
These are white guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
The cop too?
Yeah. Actually, you know, I think it was a black cop and a white cop.
Okay. I'm just trying to get perspective.
But my father had a big 357 Magnum on his hip that people knew. And he
What's your father do for a living?
5'8". Well, he was self-employed at that time,
okay.
But he used to be a territory manager for Merit Oil, Merit gas stations.
Oh my God, I do. I just pictured their logo.
Might be Sunoco or something.
Yeah.
But again, he was the guy with an 8th grade education that had to figure it out, raised by his grandparents, and ended up being a supervisor.
Damn.
But dealing with a lot of racism, even that, I remember him coming home and like stories and things that people did to, you know, set him up because he was the black guy. So sure. Anyways, that never trickled into our relationship at home because everybody knew us to be very respectful on the street. Right? And we were the first black family on our street for 5 years.
I got to stop you.
Yeah.
What'd the cops do? Go back.
Oh, sorry. I glossed right over that. I'm like, so the cops did absolutely nothing. What my father was basically telling them is, and he said this, I don't want you looking for who did this.
Yeah.
If they mess
it's going to be me.
It's going to be me. I'm going to kill everybody in the whole house.
Fuck.
And so to think about that, and it was another incident. So that was one that was really impactful and powerful.
Yes.
When I was 6, and I thought about this the past 10 years of all the protests and
Wait,
violence.
sorry. Did the family know that your dad was prepared to do this? Like
actually, had a fucking
no. So what
Magnum.
happens is people, when it comes to race and racism and violence and this type of bullying stuff, like this type of violence, people only do that when they think they're going to get away with it or they think they're going to have power over you. So another instance, to put it in perspective, and again, this travels around the neighborhood really quickly because we were the first black family there.
You're not going to fuck with the
in
Williams.
Common Square in 5 years, on the street.
Shit.
So there's another little park, and my brother and his friend, I think my brother was probably like around 11 or 12.
Okay.
This is my oldest brother. And these kids tried to drown my brother and his friend. So they came running home. My father called his boys, and they all showed up with shotguns on the roof of the car and lined up these 20 white kids on the fence and said, which one did it?
Oh my!
And they also did crazy stuff back in the day. So this is just a part of like who I am.
Yes.
And why I don't tolerate a lot of stuff.
Well, you shouldn't.
Right. But he had a hammer under the front seat of his car. And that hammer, they used to bust people's heads open. They killed people. But they had to. It wasn't like my father. He was ex-Korean, Army, Korean War vet, all that stuff. Coming home, he was a black guy that couldn't eat at the same table, with the white folks.
And
everything.
fuck off.
Yeah, but that was his reality, right? So I learned that, but the interesting thing and the really great thing is he never taught us to be angry or hateful. And so my oldest friend now, Jimmy, who I'm still in touch with to this day, is, from 4 years old, right? And so he was Brian's friend. He's a white kid, right? Brian's friend. So I never, growing up in that neighborhood, up until my teen years, 16 or 17, never looked at somebody and said that you're bad because of your skin color, right? Because there was so many neighbors on there that were just really cool.
Yes.
There was a gay couple there. They were older, and I didn't know what that was.
I was going to say.
But I just see these two guys walking back and forth from the train station, from like Shawmut Station, and one of them worked for the T, so I saw like the train patch, the T patch. And so I didn't know that, but they were the nicest guys ever, right? And there was another lesbian couple. The worst we did was we broke into people's houses and took things that look interesting, but not to hurt anyone, right? No. This is what kids do, right? You go in the yard and go take stuff or whatever. But I also spent a ton of time looking out for people as they did for me, right? So even though we had that experience, that really negative experience, and people learned after a while, right? It's like, bottles being thrown or
Brian
somebody
Dunphy got
calling
his
an N-word. I remember riding over by Ashmont Station, for folks that know Ashmont, right? From Shawmut to Ashmont. And so I'd see some of my friends and they would never say hi to me. And I'm like, wait, I was like 9. And I'm like, hey, it's me. Hi. Because they were around their racist friends. And this is
they
what
were
happens
protecting
today in politics, right?
Yep.
A lot of people won't speak out because they're around a lot of their racist family and friends, and it is what it is. So I say that because that doesn't really change. I just kind of had a recollection of, whoa, I can't believe that what was going on when I was a kid. He didn't say hi to me because he was embarrassed of, being called out for having a black friend.
See, I thought I read it as he was trying to protect you, but he was embarrassed.
Oh,
no, interesting. No. And
I would have felt better if it was that.
Yeah.
Because the difference was when those white kids, our street became a little darker and more diverse, we protected those same kids that did that. Right. And so it was really the dynamic of hey, if you're my neighbor, and this is what when I do mentorship now, I don't look at somebody and say, well, oh, you're a little white kid, so therefore I'm going to skip over you. I treat again,
next,
if you called and said, hey, they're trying to look for an internship or whatever, I don't look at that. I've recorded enough young kids that are trying to get into college, right? Into music schools.
Yes.
And so I've always kind of looked at that ability to kind of filter through, you're either a good person or you're not.
There it is.
And that's how I function. So and that's why I tell people now, especially me being older now, if I'm talking to this one kid that I didn't meet him for 3 years, but actually my friend Jimmy was like, oh, you got to meet this kid. Is one of his neighbor's sons.
Okay.
And I end up kind of helping him like, I found this out in hindsight because of some of the things.
Right.
Like 3 years later, I met him in person, and his parents were like, "Oh my God, thanks for doing this for my kid." I'm like, "What did I do?"
Which one of those amazing things?
But I knew what I did. It's just that I don't do that because I'm trying to,
of course,
get points. But what I did tell him on the first call, I was like, "Dude, it's kind of cool because I think he was probably 21 or 22."
Right.
And I said, you can ask me any question you want because I'm the old bald head black guy. What opportunity do you have in life to ask
BBG.
to have that kind of friend?
BBG.
That, through, and this is when I was just getting to know him. But I was being serious because my perspective, as I'm learning from him, my perspective is all of these years of everything, right? And he was doing documentaries and things like that. So that would have been very valuable to him.
Of course.
For research, for experience, perspective, all those things. And that's how I treat everyone across the board. It doesn't really matter.
It's funny because like and my parents were the first to get divorced on my block. No one wanted to talk to me because they were afraid like divorce was like contagious. My parents separated, mom moved out, and like some of the same kind of trauma, like a different kind where it's like our status changed in this weird way. And for me also too, I like you, I draw people in, and I don't even mean to. I pick up people, and like sometimes my husband's like, "Can you not talk to somebody in the grocery store checkout? Can you just shut the fuck up for like?" And I don't even mean to. I'm like, "Oh my God, look at her nails." He's like, "Okay, please don't say her name. Please, like whatever." But for me, it's like I have friends of all different, who sexualities, genders, races. Like I don't give a fuck. Like I truly like when I look at you now, I'm gonna see a what'd you say? Old bald headed black. I was like, oh BBG. Maybe I will. Now I can't unsee that. But one of my friends who's this black woman who I worked at a very lovely hotel with twice with the same building, which is funny. And she may or may not be on here, but she told me a story that opened up my eyes, I think, as a white female and just a fucking white human. She told me a story. She's like, she and her husband were heading to New York and they're in Connecticut, and she's like, we're super fucking late, so we threw everything in like the trunk of our car or SUV, whatever the fuck, including like his wallet. Like he's like, just throw the clothes, throw the shit, we're late to the wedding, get the fuck out of here. They're cruising down 89 getting to New York, and they get pulled over, and she's like, I start crying. I'm like, why? Because he was going 90. Like, why? She's like, no, because he had to go to his trunk. I'm like, okay, girl, you're gonna have to like elaborate. She goes, it was a white cop, Deb. She's like, my husband's black. How does that cop know that he says we were running late? I threw all my shit, including my wallet, which I do half the time or I forget it, in the trunk. How does he know that I'm actually telling the truth as a black man, going into my trunk to get my wallet, not a gun or some bullshit? She's like, and it's so funny. I'm like, I sat there and felt so stupid. And I'm like, that wouldn't have occurred to me. If Chris got pulled over, I'd be like texting my friends, be like, Slowpoke got pulled over. Like, like shit like that. Like it would never occur to me that like if Chris had to go to the trunk of our car, and she, like, they're a great looking couple with, money, like it shouldn't matter, but a nice car. Like we're not, and she's like, but I had to have that. Oh, and I also had to have the conversation with my teenage sons about not wearing a hoodie in a white neighborhood. I'm like, girl, like
it's such a thing because me.
I'm so upset about. Yes, I know.
We have I think if you take a poll, right, and this is a whole other podcast as well, right?
I feel like crying.
But I think if you take a poll, right, every black person, a person of color that I know, especially a black person,
sure, has
had these experiences, right? I've had cops run me over with their horses and things like that just because I'm standing downtown Boston by the, Washington Street Station.
Yes.
Like, again, I can see this in my in my head, right? So like all these things be spoken to a certain way. Luckily I've always been a bit articulate, right? And I use my words.
Yeah.
And so like
your
to be able to diffuse things. Yeah. Like honestly. And I never really, it's just funny you say that because I never really leaned on like my dad's going to get you or something like that. I should have.
Shit. I'm like, you could have used that.
No. But no, it's a thing. And, you could feel it. You can sense it. But also when you meet someone, even I live in Randolph now, right? So these guys, I learned a lesson, when it's time to vote and everything else, and you go to the church or wherever it is in the basement to go vote, right?
Yep.
Or not the VFW, right? But you see these guys with these World War II hats on.
Yes.
Like, oh my God, why do I have to get the most racist people? And it's a thing because you have these experiences, right? And
it's built in.
But it's also a learning lesson all the time, because I remember one time, and I went in with that attitude, and there's this old lady. She's like, "Where do you live?" Right? You tell her the address. And then she's picking on me the whole time. She must have been like 80 something, 90, 97 maybe. And so she smiled at me and she's picking at me, right? And she did it the whole time I was there. And I'm older, right? So I must look like a child, her kid or somebody to her. And I realized that I got to stop this.
Yeah.
This isn't good, but it's also a thing, it's trauma.
I was going to say, it's like, trauma. It's innate at this point. Like,
yeah, it's trauma. It's almost a thing where it's like, oh, I don't feel like dealing with this. No. So, the more you deal with it and the more you have better experiences, right, is the only way. And just understanding how to, again, kind of articulate things.
Yes.
Like, I don't, like physically, I don't really worry about that kind of stuff because you know where I came from now,
I'm
right?
like, bitch, I wouldn't take you. I would not take you.
I was into martial arts. I was into all kinds of other crazy stuff, right? Yeah. But then after a while, you realize that, that those are all just self-defense and coping mechanisms. Even violence is a coping mechanism, of course. Right? Anger is a coping mechanism. So I spent a ton of time, like, again, we're going to have 2 or 3 more podcasts, but I didn't.
You're my co-host now, so it's fine.
No, I went through. I'll rush past this just to give you more perspective.
But why? Just because we're way over, it doesn't matter. Dave? Everyone's gonna stay later. It's fucking fine. Go on. Don't
I was
gloss.
gonna say, going through. So you heard about my childhood, kind of growing up, right, and dealing with that. Always be defiant and everything else. But, fast forwarding, mental health is a big deal with me now. I try to bring that into all my spaces, even my audio and music spaces now.
1,000%.
Talking about that. Suicide awareness. So I don't think I ever talked to you about.
But tell the audience, because this is...
Okay, yeah. So going through divorce and what I did to kind of like learn and educate myself and, educate myself. I'll just say that, right? On how to behave, how to control myself, how to actually, not react a certain way, or how to have you not get to me, right? Yep. Not allow you to do that, because it's like, you talking to me right now on the phone, your husband did something that you're pissed off at, whatever, right? Yep. Or you're somebody's partner. And then all of a sudden you look at your phone because they're calling and you're like, oh, what the hell are they calling me for? Right?
Yes, I do.
Flick that switch.
Yep.
So I realized that we can all do that at any time in our lives. Yep. Right? And so understanding that we can do that, number one, practicing how to do that.
Practice makes perfect.
Easier said than done. But it's a numbers game. It's all math, right? So it's like when I was going through my divorce, I'm home and I'm thinking of like this situation that happened to me. Yeah. Right.
In a way, it kind of happened for you.
Oh, it's the best thing ever.
Right.
Like, right? So it was totally the best thing ever. But when you're going through it, right, and actually stopping yourself when you feel a certain way, and I think this is something we have to practice on a daily basis, regardless of what that is, whatever that ailment is, what it is that makes us feel that life is worse than better.
You can have a bad day, but not a bad life.
And you can make a choice. Yeah, you can actually choose to feel a little better or choose to feel a little worse. Stopping yourself, and I remember like
that's huge.
I had to stop myself and be like, "Oh, you can't call that blank a blank." Yeah, don't and it would be one bad word to the next bad word. Or I love
bad words.
You see how nice I am. I'm
actually like that fucking bitch. Don't worry, Dave can bleep me, but I don't want to be bleeped. But no,
it's literally one of these things where it's math, right? So if I can do something and feel better on whatever, for whatever I'm doing in that moment and say, I want to feel better, the clock is still ticking, right?
Very
so
true.
If you can do that and get through the whole day, you won.
Yes.
Right? So stopping yourself and saying, I don't want to do that. So by going through all that stuff, kind of learning those lessons, dealing with, a year later, I think it was, my little brother committed suicide.
That's what you told me. Oh,
I shared that with you, right? So it's like he dealt with, depression and things since he was 15. He was 38.
Was he diagnosed?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was in and out of...
Because it wasn't like an our day, but then...
Yeah. But there was a stretch of his life where he was doing good.
Okay.
And again, people that goes through these things, it's some kind of trigger or
I
whatever.
was just going to say, sometimes
so that happened, and having to deal with that,
I'm so
dealing with
sorry.
that trauma and that crime scene and everything else, right? And me being the person to do that, me being the person
did you find
notify
him?
Yeah, well, I got the first call to go there, right, and go to the hospital and put you in that little room because nobody's telling you anything.
You're like,
And
can you
then-
just talk to me?
Yeah, and then somebody coming in and saying, like, you know, he died, and then me saying, well, I want to see him. And so I go in and I see him stiff on a bed, right? That's the reality of people that deal with this stuff. And so I learned that, you know, one of the takeaways from that, you know, and this is like fast forwarding.
I feel like crying.
Yeah, and you know, I didn't realize how depressed I was for a while. But not only did that happen, so it was like 3 weeks to have to deal with that, to bury him. And 7 days later, which was 30 days later after my little brother died, my other brother older than me died. And I'm in my studio and I get a text message like, oh, did you hear? My other brother texted me. And I didn't know if it was real. I literally just threw my phone across the room and I was like, I'm not dealing with this right now. Like, it literally just buried my brother. He had a seizure.
Oh my.
He had a seizure, and he had, you know, epilepsy, and they found him in his apartment like 4 days later. And
oh my.
so that was really, and I only say this kind of casually and lightheartedly because of the lessons that I learned to having to deal with that. If
And
you can
also
imagine
paying
how
it forward, too.
traumatizing it was.
100%.
Yeah, and so like to go through that stuff, take care of people. My mother's, you know, she's 88. She's still doing okay now.
And she's
but
lost her babies.
Having to tell her about the first baby and then having to round up everybody else. Like literally all my siblings were scattered around. So, but those are the things that are real. My Emmy-nominated film.
Yes. Okay. You're
It's called
an
This Ain't
Emmy-nominated
Normal.
film, and then you're also an Emmy-nominated film, and then which is Grammy, which is where I keep fucking up.
Yeah.
So tell me everything.
The film, which is the Emmy-nominated part.
The Emmy-nominated.
Cool.
Okay. God damn.
That was exciting to learn. But this was a documentary that we did about a lot of the gang culture in Boston.
Damn it.
And it was like 5 different subjects in the film. Some of the worst guys, the worst, you know, killers.
How'd you get them to talk to you?
Well, the director ended up going and hanging out with them for like 6 months with no cameras, no nothing.
Shit.
Right. And there was a program called Street Safe, which we talk about in the film. Their film was originally supposed to be about Street Safe and the work that they were doing.
Holy
and
shit.
so once the director got to know some of the guys and their families and their kids and everything else, they all decided that they wanted to have their own voices. So the movie ended up being about them. And the whole goal was to humanize what's going on. So if you're from Natick, different parts of Natick can be a little sketchy if you're close to the Framingham side. But if you're from Dover, you don't have friends that are gang members generally, right? You might be an attorney and you deal with gang members.
Fair enough.
And that's going to be a different perspective. If you're in Boston, that very well could be your neighbor.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
And so the whole goal is just like I'm telling a story about my life, right? Nobody knows this when they see me. When they see me at a gala.
Well, you also don't want to, because I look fancy.
Because I'm fancy. You see me on LinkedIn. You don't know this story about me, right? And so.
And don't assume it either.
Nor should we actually think that that person that's going through that struggle is made of that as well.
That's
right?
fair.
So understanding that that person is going through something and that their children are a part of that cycle, right? And being able to go, and this is why I do what I do.
This is like fucking heart-wrenching, man.
Yeah, I use music and entertainment and everything for mostly music as that shiny, dangling object that people are like, oh my God, you do music.
Yeah.
So then I can talk to a young person and say, yeah, but you know, I can
So much
talk to
other.
them about the business of music and administration. So if they don't have a God's gift to create, right, then they could get into a lot of different disciplines within the arts.
I was gonna say there's so many angles, and it's funny because I've just had this epiphany. I've had this a couple of times, but it sometimes captures me in different spaces. Music also dictates how you're supposed to feel in a movie or in a show, right? So I just watched this Holocaust one. I can't remember. It was Emmy-nominated or. Sorry, I really screw up all the awards. I fucking Oscar nominated. I don't fucking know. It was nominated. Yeah. It was where there was no music whatsoever. There was not a soundtrack, and it was about the SOS, and it was the SS that was like the guy who's like the head of the concentration camp and his family who lived next door. I'm totally spacing on the name of the movie. You guys are all correct me, I'm sure. But, and how there was no music, so you could figure out how you wanted to feel about it. Because I feel like if I asked you, Malik, right now, here's your trick question. What's your theme song? You're walking down the street, you're feeling all your shit. You're like, I am awesome. I'm giving back to the world. I'm fucking.
I'm totally Shaft. Can't you hear the guitars? Do it. Like. Well, that's the whole thing. So part of the policy that we're writing, this is how like my life is full circle, right?
Yes.
And everything kind of intertwines. So I'm on the Cultural Policy Development Advisory Council with the government, right?
You're going to say that again and drink a little more?
But part of we talk about gig workers, like you're a gig worker when I met you, right? Gig workers, even event planning is technically a gig worker, right? So now everybody knows
used and abused, is that what you meant?
Yeah.
Gig worker. Is that what they're calling us now?
Exactly. So gig workers is kind of like an artsy term, right? That we use. And so, but we talking about gig workers, pay equity, benefits, all that kind of stuff. I look at sustainable opportunities, right? It's one thing to do a gig for the weekend, right? Even if you get paid or a grant or whatever you do to get on stage, but what happens on Monday, right?
Fair enough.
So that's an issue there. And so you talk about housing, we talk about healthcare, I talk about mental health a lot because
I'm so glad you
having
do.
Insurance to go to the hospital is one thing. Having somebody say, dude, you don't feel so good? Hey, girl, like what's going on? Like you're not feeling good?
Let's dig into this.
You could probably talk to somebody about that. And these are these resources that you can explore. Right. So our own self-awareness of what's happening with us is a big reason why we create.
That's amazing.
Right.
That's true.
So if you want,
100%.
if you tell me a sad story, I'm going to write you a little sad music. Right. If I wake up and say, I feel crappy today, I'm going to write a crappy song and it's going to come out. Now we do have the ability to say, let me imagine I feel that way.
Let me also imagine that I feel happy. What am I going to fucking listen to, right?
But the people that imagine that they feel happy are the Robin Williams that commit
who
suicide.
hit it. I was just going to say, who hit
but
it?
Think about it. We have this innate ability to create and be actors with our art, even if we're not in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So we can still say, I think I want to pretend I feel great today.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go kill myself later.
And then I'm going to go kill myself later.
Right? But that's serious. And that's kind of like what happened even with my little brother, where depending on who he was talking to, he could kind of shapeshift a little bit, right? And he can say,
put on a face for the faces.
I'm not going to say, now me and him were super tight, so I had all these text messages and we were, like, he got me through my divorce. He got me through, like, he was the one, like, getting me through a bunch of stuff, and he was, younger. But that's what it is for me as an artist to say, hey, something, since we're talking about all these opportunities to make money, can we kind of talk about like how we're feeling as a community and where we're living and where the opportunities
how we're growing up and
where the bids are from a state level and all these different things, as entrepreneurs, and how do I build my business and how do I start my podcast and how do I do all these things, right? So like, and that's why I always glorify my friends, because my friends do really cool things and I learn from them.
Yes.
Right. So
I agree. I mean, like 100%. And it's so funny. So one of my deepest, darkest, it's not really, it kind of came out in 2017 because I was on The Price is Right. Oh.
It's one of my second favorite show.
I was called down and I did not make it on stage. But anyway, so the reason I bring this up is because I still watch it. And it's something like if I'm writing or if I'm creating, I'll have Drew and family on in the background. And what, he does his, homage to Bob Barker and says, help control the pet population, blah, 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 get your pets spayed or neutered. But then he's added his own thing. That's like, hey, there's no shame in asking for help. I love you. Take care of you, take care of your mental health, take care of your physical health. And it's so funny. Like I realize he does it. And at first it kind of sounds like a wee bit cheesy, just the way he says that. I love you. You're like, you don't fucking know me. You don't love me. But maybe that person needed to hear that today. Right. And and he's like, take care of, there's no shame in asking. Like he went through some shit where his ex like fiance was murdered, some crazy ass shit. I'm sure that's kind of like what he's tuning into. But I don't know. I mean, I wish more people would talk about mental health. Like I said on a previous podcast that I see a therapist. I feel like everyone should have an outlet that isn't their sig other, that isn't, you know, their kids or mom or whomever, who can be a little bit objective and be like, hey, wait, actually, you know, and I said this a little while ago, but you can have a bad day and not have a bad life. You can have a shit month, you know, where you thought you were going to do and get all the, not material. Like, you know, I had setbacks. I wanted this podcast to come out way earlier than you're seeing it, but I'm also a perfectionist and I didn't have all this yet. And so there are days I would beat myself up and be like, what are you doing? You know how to do this. Why aren't you faster, better, faster? And like, that's where I put the pressure on myself. And that's not healthy, you know? So it's like, talking and speaking out against, you know, like there's no shame in, like, if I hurt myself, I have a fucking partially torn hamstring right now. Am I going to slow down? Probably not. I'm probably going to stop doing some plyo. I'm not going to sprint on that motherfucker. I'm looking at my treadmill. You know what I mean? But I will do things to help myself, but I'm going to see the doctor. So like, I don't know, go see a doctor. If your head's not right, go see a doctor. If you're worried about one of your other friends, confront them. Like there's things that we're doing now. Listen, our world is really fucked, but there's also ways in which I'm glad I'm raising my daughter now where she doesn't have body dysmorphia. Did I say that right? Dysmorphia? Dysmorphia. Not schmishmorphia. Oh my God, fuck, maybe, all right. I'm going to have a 1 drink minimum. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm raising her in a time where like she wasn't feeling good and I'm going to do everything in my power to help her mentally, just like I would if she had the fucking flu. So like, this is what I love. Like you're taking your experiences, you've had major loss in your life, you've reconnected with friends who've had major loss and are doing something about it. And we're speaking up because it's like, it's not, mental health is not just a fad right now. Right. And I think sometimes it gets confused in that, like we're all talking about it, but like always check on your strong friends. We're the strong friends. Every now and again, I have a fucking dip, right?
Yeah. I was going to say like, you know,
we're the strong ones. And every now and again, it's not fucking easy. We're harder on ourselves than anyone's going to be. Dave's going to be like, you're doing great. I'm like, I'm not.
Yeah. I mean, if you're aware of what's going on, I think at the end of the day, like that's the battle. So I've been bringing mental health into the audio space.
Fucking love that.
I'm a chair of the Audio Engineering Society, the Boston section. I'm a governor.
Malik volunteers for a whole bunch of shit. Governor
for the global organization. I didn't post it on LinkedIn yet.
What?
Yeah, I know.
I can't wait to scroll through your pictures. Okay.
So in Grammy's, you know, Grammy is
it's huge.
You know, Grammy's Grammy, and there's a lot of professional development opportunities.
Why is it named Grammy?
It's actually the Recording Academy, the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences.
No, so, that I know.
So the Grammy, like, why is it named Grammy? That's a good question.
But no, your movie, right?
Oh, the Emmy.
The Emmy. Fuck.
Yes.
Fuck. See, I switched.
How dare you?
Damn it! I always do this. I'm like,
how dare you?
I'm about to say Tony. I'm kidding.
No, I actually don't.
Not on Broadway.
I don't have a Grammy. I do aspire to have a Grammy. I have 4 friends that won Grammys this past year, and I'm like, I need a Grammy.
You need a fucking Grammy. But also,
what happens when you go through this stuff?
Yeah.
Shiny objects don't really mean a lot, right? The work. With that particular film, we screened it around with Boston Medical Center, Harvard University, Harvard Law,
that's amazing.
All the Boston Public Libraries in DC, you know, and everything else because of the content nature of the film. And another fun fact, when the director called me about the Emmy nomination, he got a call from a publicist because his Emmy email, his Emmy winning, his nomination email went in his junk. And so the person calls him up and says, hey, can we do an interview with you because you got nominated for for an Emmy.
Oh, see, I'm contagious.
So he got nominated for an Emmy and he didn't know what they were talking about. Like, what are you talking about? So when he called me, he was like, dude, are you sitting down? And I'm like, yeah, I'm lying, right? Because I'm walking around.
Because I'm like fucking pacing.
Yeah, I'm walking around. But he didn't tell me what he was calling me for. And he was like, dude, we got nominated for an Emmy. I'm like, what the? That was a great experience.
You can say fuck on my podcast. He's like, I can't. I'll say shit. That's as far as I go.
I'm just I went to go do hot yoga. And it was the most grueling thing. This is the start 6 weeks. You know, it was in January when my first physical activity.
Oh, I know.
And
hot
I
yoga.
asked my friend Michael. I was like, "Hey man, can we have a brother talk?" And he was like, come to hot yoga with us next weekend. I'm like, all right, cool.
That's
it was
a
the
thing?
most grueling thing
I
ever
know,
did.
I've done it.
I took my daughter with me, right? And she's super physical,
Yeah.
like, regional
Did she
volleyball.
die and find herself again too?
No, I'm sitting there and I'm trying to do whatever move it was, and I said, fuck. Right that? And then I looked at her and I was like, oh, because I don't never. So she's like, Dad. She didn't say it at the time. She's later on, she's like, Dad, that's the first time I ever heard you swear.
My kids will never have that. Ever, never, ever.
But it's not a.
But hot yoga is a fuck thing. It's like hot yoga. There's oh my God, I actually loved it. It was like hot cardio. I used to have to get there like a little early to acclimate to the room. I loved it. But there was a couple of times where I'm like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna pass out.
It was the best.
Yeah,
and
that's
what motivated me.
Yes, yeah,
I was like,
huge.
I'm going back to the gym. That was before
Good
I got
for
back
you.
to the gym. I went to LA right after that. That next weekend, I was in LA with my daughter.
Nothing will
I
make
came
you feel
back
worse than LA.
Sore and everything else. I know. But I was like, I'm going to do something about this. And so that's what it was.
Yep.
And people forget, like, you have to suffer in
Yes.
order to lose weight,
Yes.
to get gains.
There's a suffering.
The food that you're eating, all the rest of that stuff. So anyways, but all this stuff is like one big ball of like wax that all plays with each other. So between what I do creatively, right, has everything to do with my brain and how I feel.
1,000%. And when you're not being creative and when you can't, or you're
being
blocked,
creative,
or
when I'm like,
Yeah.
these reasons why we can't do certain things, my relationship with my, kids, and then I'm out in community, and I always said, like, I don't want to be that guy coaching Little League baseball and not have a relationship with my kids.
Yep.
Because, there's a lot of
But you want to be out there. Okay, but it's funny. A lot of dads might do it for show, but the dads, like Dylan had a baseball game last night, and this dad with twins, my son got moved up to the majors as a fourth grader, which is kind of a big deal. Awesome. Yeah, I know. Congrats. I'm trying not to anyway, I cried when I found out. Anyway, I was very excited for him. He worked his ass off. Like, he definitely worked his ass off. Mm-hmm. But there's this guy who usually coaches baseball, and he's actually a teacher at a local school. He's coached basketball. He's coached baseball. He's like one of those guys, but he actually gives a fuck. And like, that is probably one of the hugest things about it. So I said hi to him yesterday. I'm like, how you dealing? Each one of his twins was playing each other. And he put on his AirPods and sat by himself, kind of away from everybody. And I said, why aren't you coaching? He's like, who am I going to choose? And I was like, well, shit. He's not just doing it to do it. He's like, I care about this. I can't choose between my kids. I'm going to watch it like a spectator. But when we showed up, a little before the games, they'll do like practice and all that stuff. He was throwing in the cages with the kids. Then they're like, hey, are you helping out? He's like, no, but no one else was doing it. I'm like, he does it because he wants to. Like, he wants to have a relationship with his kids. It's innate in him. Like, you're not going to do it to do it. If you're doing Little League, you want to do it and be there for your kid. But any other reasons are stupid if you're not in it.
There are some bad moms out there.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of bad dads as well that live in the same neighborhood, on the same street.
Yep.
That their children don't get a birthday card, or they don't show up, and they don't deal with the fire of dealing with that person that they hate at that point.
Yep.
And so that was the hardest thing to do for me. Like, calling, I remember she was like 5, 6, 7. I have videos. We have so much content, especially if you remember like iChat videos where you can record those.
1,000%.
We did homework together, and all kinds of like negative things, about me doing that. Things that we even said about me doing that for all the wrong reasons or whatever. But I just looked at that and I'm like, this is the best way I could actually have a relationship.
Yes, and keep in touch. She's 3,000
fucking
miles away.
She's little, like she doesn't really know. Like she doesn't know what a day or a week or a month is.
Yeah, but she wants
she
wants her dad in her life.
Oh yeah, she's my bestie and
But that's the thing. Oh my god!
No
all right.
separating that.
So will you be my co-host? Oh my god! I just bumped. Oh my god, 1.5 Negronis. This bitch bumps her head.
I might have to be a co-host one of these days. But no, this is fun. I didn't know what we were going to talk about. We talked about everything that is not what we said we were going to talk about. At least what you told me I was going to talk about.
Let's see. I have all my notes here. Nope.
We talk about yoga. I think that was in there somewhere.
Yep, yoga was in there somewhere.
So that's my thing. So
now are you going to be a Bikram instructor?
No, but you know something
shit?
like. I used to be really physical. I used to begin martial arts, Russian splits, all this crazy stuff, right? As we get older. But
then you get more broken.
But the hip thing, part of it was just like, I can't
get a
believe
replacement?
that I didn't. I'm not there yet. I actually just talked to my doctor last week. I'm not there yet. I'm doing okay. I'm like, yo, I'm down some pounds though. No, but part of it is with that is all around like the mental health thing or whatever. Yeah. It's like go for a walk around the block. Like all these things matter. And when you get used to just kind of sitting, you know, idle, and I'm in front of a computer a lot, right? So like I'm just looking at a screen and not doing anything. Yeah. And I realized that I did that to myself. Now people see me and they're like, oh, I probably look fine. Yeah. But but just how I feel about it. So that's been my big thing now.
Well,
like
it is, I gotta say, being physical is like one of my huge, I might draw it into this podcast somehow because it's so important to my strength, but also like my mental well-being. But it's life-changing. You gotta want it, but And
I'll say this when we
do it. And I'm going to be like, where can people find you?
So this goes back to the cool thing, right? So my purpose in life is now, it not only makes me feel good to share, but it literally is my why. Some people say, well, why do you do this? Why? Why do you do that? Yeah, my why is like, guess what? I did a lot of cool stuff. Yeah. And that's not really that fulfilling in the big picture of things, right? Yeah. If I can do something when I get back on that bus, when God's like, yo, what did you do?
You're like, I
want to say I did something that was meaningful. And getting an Emmy nomination is cool, but it's not really that
But it's also like,
unless I share that experience and how to actually grow.
Well, how you're going to grow
a career and everything else around that.
And pay it forward and be a good father. And, there's a lot to it. Like
that's all I ever ask. If I do something for someone, I'm like, listen, just pay it forward. It's all good. If we can make money together and do business together, cool.
Awesome.
If you need a favor,
fine.
Just pay it forward.
Pay it forward. I agree with that. I have a whole other story, which I'm about to tell you. But so if people are looking for you, if you need music for your anything to dictate how you're going to feel, Malik got you. Where can people find you?
They can find me online, MalikWilliams.com, but actually on Instagram, Malik Mason Williams, MASON. I use my middle name. Damn. And my company is Real Sync Music, REELSYNCMUSIC.com.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah. Yay. Oh my, I cannot thank you enough for fucking being here. I'm dying. We're going to talk for a million more hours after. You can find me at pourmeastory. Fuck, I really can't drink 1.5. pourmeastorypodcast.com, pourmeastory.podcast on Instagram. I'm working on Facebook. I'm pretty sure it's Pour Me a Story Podcast at Facebook. And then, if you want to see anything or people, you want to nominate anyone, I'd love to talk and drink and hang. And I want to say thank you to Louis Vuitton for still making me feel too fat for these. And that's all I got, motherfuckers. Yeah. And we out.
And if you need testimony of experience, so you can call me.
Yes.
And I'll be really brutally honest.
She'll be good.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you so much for having me.
I can't give up. You are amazing. What do we say? Old black BB guy.
I'm the old
black bald-headed black guy.
Yeah, I'm the bald-headed black guy.
OBBG. Better than OPP.
It's not like I have a choice.